All right, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover a pretty sneaky psychological trap hiding right inside our digital wallets. I mean, we live in a world where buying your morning coffee, grabbing a new pair of sneakers, or even booking an entire vacation takes literally nothing more than a quick face scan or a tap on your screen. It's magic, right? But here's the thing. This incredible convenience, it comes with a massive unseen cost to both our psychological health and, well, our bank balances. Honestly, if you've ever gotten to the end of the month, checked your account, and thought, wait, where on earth did all my money actually go? Trust me, you are definitely not alone. What you're experiencing is a very real, very modern phenomenon that behavioral economists call budget drift. It's that eerie, creeping feeling of your finances just silently leaking away, even when you know for a fact you haven't made any giant, extravagant purchases.
Section 1. The Cashless Trap.
So, to solve this mystery of our vanishing digital cash, we first need to zoom out and look at the sheer macroeconomic scale of digital payments today. Take India's UPI system, for example, which has exploded into the largest real-time payment network on the planet. Just to put this into perspective, in the 2025-2026 financial year alone, this network processed a completely mind-boggling 241.6 billion transactions. That's a 12,000-fold increase in just one decade. We've basically shifted from a cash is king society to an entirely digital one almost overnight. And honestly, this right here tells the real story. We aren't just using these digital payments for big-ticket serious items like rent or buying a new laptop. No, a massive 86% of merchant transactions are actually under 500 rupees. 86%! This proves that UPI is now the absolute default for our daily microcommerce. It's the roadside tea stall, it's that quick metro ticket, it's all those tiny little incidentals of everyday life. But as you might guess, all that unbelievable efficiency comes with a pretty severe behavioral consequence. While having this totally seamless, interoperable system is super satisfying to use, it completely disconnects the physical act of paying from the actual joy of getting the stuff you bought. And because that friction is totally gone, 3/4 of users actually report an overall increase in their spending. By stripping away the friction, we've inadvertently engineered a system where our financial discipline just takes a massive hit. Section 2. Your brain on digital money. Okay, to really grasp why we're suddenly overspending, we have to look neurologically at what happens inside our own heads when we ditch physical cash. Whenever we're shopping, our brain essentially hosts this epic biological boxing match between two very distinct regions. In one corner, you have the nucleus accumbens, which is just lighting up with dopamine, getting super excited about acquiring that shiny new item. But in the other corner is the anterior insula. Now, this is the region responsible for processing literal, physical pain, disgust, and the genuine psychological distress of handing over your hard-earned cash. In a normal, healthy scenario, the pain from the insula acts as this evolutionary braking system against the sheer pleasure of the accumbens. But here is where it gets crazy. Digital payments disrupt this delicate balance entirely. Because digital money essentially just exists as pixels on a screen, it creates what's called a monopoly money effect. It just doesn't feel real. It lacks tangibility. The depletion of your funds isn't immediate or physically visible the way it is when you pull a crisp note out of a leather wallet. So this abstraction effectively anesthetizes the anterior insula. It literally numbs your evolutionary braking system, meaning that dopamine-hungry nucleus accumbens gets to operate completely unchecked. And that heavily biases you toward impulsive buying. Section 3. Death by microtransactions. Now, this biological bypass is especially dangerous for Generation Z and students who are managing their first real taste of financial independence, all within a purely digital world. You might be looking at your own daily habits right now and thinking, come on, a few taps for some tea or a quick cab ride across campus, that can't possibly hurt my budget that much, right? After all, they're just tiny, insignificant numbers on a screen. Well, let's break that down and look at a pretty typical day for a student. Say a 50 rupee auto rickshaw ride in the morning. Then maybe a 50 rupee add-on to your lunch, a 50 rupee tea break around 4 p.m., and, of course, a 50 rupee late-night snack. These are 4 seemingly harmless, totally frictionless transactions, and they completely bypass your cognitive deliberation because in the moment, they feel mathematically negligible. But guess what? Those tiny, invisible, untracked little taps, they aggregate to a massive 6,000 rupee monthly total. For a college student, a sum like that silently wipes out a huge chunk of their monthly allowance.
This is the very definition of invisible spending, and it causes severe financial distress precisely because the money just vanishes into thin air without setting off any warning bells.
Now, take all of that and add it to the environment we're actually spending in. E-commerce platforms are actively weaponizing these psychological biases against us using algorithmic nudges. Just think about it. Those flash sales with completely artificial scarcity, the countdown timers screaming only 3 left in stock, hyper-personalized AI recommendations following you around, and those incredibly smooth buy now, pay later gateways. All of these things are intentionally designed to overwhelm your logical brain with urgency and a massive fear of missing out.
Section 4. The 100 rupee rule.
So, what's the actual cure here? Look, traditional budgeting spreadsheets are, frankly, way too exhausting to maintain for hundreds of tiny microtransactions every single month. Let's be real, if you have to log in to a spreadsheet to record a cup of tea, you're absolutely going to quit budgeting within a week. That is where we introduce the hero of today's explainer, the 100 rupee rule. It's this stupidly simple behavioral protocol designed to rewire your brain right at the point of sale. Instead of trying to maintain these complex ledgers retroactively, this rule artificially reintroduces the friction right before you spend your money. And it works in 2 super actionable steps that force you to literally just wait before hitting that biometric scan. Step 1 is the 10-second pause. For your everyday microtransactions, you basically pause for 10 seconds for every 100 rupees the item costs. So, want a 300 rupee iced coffee? You literally step back from the counter and count to 30 before paying. Step 2 is the 24-hour wait. For any non-essential purchase that goes over that 100 rupee baseline, say a cool new hoodie online, you have to close the app and wait a full 24 hours. The crucial point here is that this intentional pause snaps you right out of your fast emotional autopilot. It acts as a cognitive circuit breaker. While you're standing there counting those 30 seconds or making yourself wait those 24 hours, that initial dopamine spike, driven by the nucleus accumbens, starts to dissipate. It actually forces your logical brain, specifically your mesial subprefrontal cortex, to come online, evaluate the real cost of the item, and simulate the pain of paying that the digital pixels previously took away from you. And you'll find that most of the time, the urge to buy just organically fades away.
Section 5. Building a fintech fortress.
All right. Once you've mastered the psychological rule of pausing, it is time to leverage fintech architecture itself to structurally defend your money. Look, if technology created this frictionless problem, we can absolutely use technology to automate our discipline. We start with the classic 50-30-20 framework, establishing very clear buckets for your monthly allowance. Out of a standard 10,000 rupee monthly budget, 50% or 5,000 goes to absolute needs, like rent and groceries. 30% or 3,000 is for wants, like dining out or catching a movie. And the final 20%, 2,000 rupees, goes straight into savings or investments. Which sounds like a great theory, right? But how do you actually enforce it when a single QR scan can just pull cash from the whole pot?
Well, to prevent your fun discretionary wants from accidentally cannibalizing your rent money, you implement the dual account strategy. Basically, you keep your needs and your savings safely tucked away in your primary bank account, and crucially, you completely disconnect this account from all of your UPI applications. Then, you create a secondary account. You load only your 3,000 rupee wants budget into it, and you link your UPI strictly to this secondary account. What you're doing here is externalizing your self-control. When the fun money runs out, the tech literally just declines the transaction. Simple as that.
You can even take this a step further and reverse engineer features like UPI Lite. Now, while this was originally designed to make transactions even faster, you can actually treat your UPI Lite as a tightly bounded weekly pocket money wallet. Just load it up with a really small amount specifically for daily incidentals. Because it has a hard limit, it forces you to intentionally log back into your main bank app to top it up when it's empty. And that creates yet another vital cognitive checkpoint for you to evaluate your spending velocity right in the middle of the week. Finally, we lean heavily on automated analytics apps. Applications like Oxio, Fi, or Splitwise are game changers because they totally replace the pain of updating manual spreadsheets. They automatically read, categorize, and analyze all of your microtransactions in real time. They visually consolidate those dozens of tiny payments so you can actually see the big picture. Plus, a lot of them even deploy micro-saving triggers, like automatically rounding up your spare change on a purchase and investing it for you in the background. Which brings us to a really crucial crossroads in how we interact with money in the 21st century. I'll leave you with this final thought to deeply consider the next time you go to double tap to pay or scan a QR code. Is the frictionless design of your digital wallet secretly controlling you, or are you actively architecting friction to regain control of your own financial future? Honestly, taking a breath and implementing the 100 rupee rule might just be the most profitable 10 seconds of your entire day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.